I love when you're filming something and you tell everyone you're gonna film something and they knock on your door anyway. Hey everyone, and welcome to my very first YouTube video ever. For those of you who know me, and for those of you who don't, for the last several years I have been doing a Post-Bacc program, and I wanted to make this video about Post-Bacc programs and answer some of the very common questions and general terms of things like what is a Post-Bacc program and should you do one. So without any further ado, let's get into it. First things first, what is a Post-Bacc program? Post-Bacc literally stands for Post-Baccalaureate. It's a program designed for individuals who have already earned their undergrad degree in one field and they're looking to primarily go into applying for medical school. Post-Bacc programs can take anywhere traditionally from 1 to 2 years, but they can go also from 3 to 4 depending on what your life looks like, what your pace of taking the classes are, and kind of just curtailing to your own individual needs and what's going on in your own life. There are two types of Post-Bacc programs: official Post-Bacc programs and unofficial Post-Bacc programs. What's the difference? Well, an official Post-Bacc program takes place usually at a 4-year traditional university, and it's a program that has its own structure, advisors, other Post-Baccs as well. Usually, at least for mine, there was an admissions process, and you do take the classes with the undergrad pre-meds who are in that 4-year university. Whereas an unofficial Post-Bacc program is usually done at a junior college, and you take the classes that you need to fulfill the requirements for medical school, kind of pick and choose, and there's not an advisor necessarily per se for the program, but you do take the same classes, and theoretically you are able to take the MCAT and apply for medical school just as well as the official Post-Bacc program student. One of the questions about official Post-Bacc programs versus unofficial Post-Bacc programs is, do they make a difference to admissions committees for medical school? And the answer is, depends on who you ask. I've heard from some people and from some officials that they look more favorably at an official Post-Bacc program, but I've also heard from others that they don't really care where you take the classes as long as you just take them, score what you need to score, and you're good to go. So look into what you want to do personally for you. And also, if you're a type of person who does better with a really structured program or one that kind of goes at your own pace. Another thing about Post-Bacc programs is that with official ones, sometimes you do actually get a certificate of completion, kind of like a degree, but not really, that states that you did fulfill all the requirements and do a Post-Bacc program. My official Post-Bacc program did not have a certificate with it. However, when applying to medical school, you don't really need a certificate. You just need to have a transcript showing that you've taken the classes and that you scored well in them. So what are the classes you have to take? Well, there are 9 of them, and they are the same 9 classes that the undergrad traditional pre-med student also takes. And those classes are 2 semesters of general biology, 2 semesters of general chemistry, 2 semesters of physics, 2 semesters of organic chemistry, and biochemistry. Something to also note, with the exception of biochemistry, all of the other classes have to be taken with a lab. And that may not sound kind of like a big deal on paper, but in practice, it eats up a lot of time. So in addition to your lecturing portion of those classes that you will be taking throughout the week, you'll probably have 3 to 5 hours of actual in-person lab, and then the work for the labs in itself afterwards can get kind of tedious. For example, in my general chemistry class, the very first one, Gen Chem 101, our post labs could take anywhere from 3 hours to 12 hours. And for those of you who don't know, a post lab is the actual written report you write up after you do that week's experiment in lab. It can get really, really tedious, so just kind of plan accordingly and keep that in the back of your mind. Biochemistry, at least for me, it was offered with a lab and also a component without a lab. Medical schools don't really require biochemistry to have a lab. I decided I'm going to take one without the lab and give myself some extra time to focus on organic chemistry, which was the other class I was taking at the same time. So where do you take a Post-Bacc program? Well, again, it depends on what type of Post-Bacc program you want to do. If it's an unofficial Post-Bacc program, any local junior college that offers those 9 classes that I mentioned, you can take them there. Go at your own pace, voila. Special note though, with the exception of during the pandemic, traditionally medical schools only allowed you to take those classes in person. You could not take them online. It might have changed, it's something you need to look into, but usually, especially with lab, it needed to be in person. In my state, a lot of the post-bac programs have kind of shifted into serving underrepresented communities, and they keep their applicants within those guidelines. I only could find, I think if I remember correctly, 2 post-bac programs in my state that were open to all admission-wise, and because of that, they can get kind of competitive. Something also to consider is that post-bac programs can get kind of pricey depending on different factors. First and foremost, if you're doing a traditional official program, those in themselves can have a price tag just for the classes because you are taking them at a 4-year university. Second thing is if you're going out of state, like a lot of the people I knew who had to do them, I would say about 80% of the post-bacs in my program were from out of state. Moving costs, travel costs, all add up. So when you're applying to these programs, take it seriously, write your essays really well, interview really well, do your research, and you'll be fine. And that's pretty much post-bac programs. Thanks for watching. If you've got any comments or questions, put them in the comment section below. I'd be happy to answer them, and we'll see you next time. Take care.